first of a. She's 4 weeks
Oh
old.
my
Actually, she's
word.
1 month. She's 1 month today, and she's just a little.
Today, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, we made it. She's still got that new baby smell, but the shine is starting to wear off. She's
Yep.
most nights she sleeps like okay, and by okay I mean putting in 2.5, 3 hours at a time. But the last couple of
Yeah.
nights she's kind of woken up, and it's been an hour and a half, 2 hours, and she just doesn't want to go back to sleep, which is a little bit unpleasant. Let's say that. It's just
She's
hard.
a diva. She's a diva.
She really
You know, and
is,
she's
yeah.
allowed to be. She takes after her mother like that. Just kidding, Ree. I love you. We're just teasing. Just teasing.
It's just tricky. And then, like, we're trying to figure out what do we do, and babies are only supposed to be awake for 45 minutes at a time, and if they're up past that, you miss the sleep cue. And it's like, no, we didn't miss the sleep cue. We have put her down when she was getting tired. And the thing is, she'll wake up and she'll have a bottle, and she'll have a burp, and she'll have a nappy changed, and then she'll have a bit more bottle, and then she like falls asleep on you, or she's falling asleep on you. So you put her down, and she might make it 5 or 10 minutes, and then she just crack it, and then she's awake for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, and it's like
this sounds like Eli. He kind of did that whole thing too, right? Where he did not want to sleep unless he was like sleeping on you. I remember seeing pictures. You'd be posting pictures like, here he is sleeping on me again.
Yeah, so we've got some hilarious sleep defective children, both of them. Eli thankfully sleeps through the night now, but it's rough. Like, and I'm okay because I'm off work at the moment, but it'll be interesting to see what happens when I'm back in 2 weeks. How that goes.
Yeah, I remember. I think it was our. Was it our? I don't know. I can't remember which kid it was. They all kind of blur together after a while. But we got this thing called a Mama-Roo, and it's really good. So it's got like these different rocking motions and stuff. Because our kids, well, I can't remember which one. Again, I can't remember which one it was. But they wouldn't sleep unless they were like being held or rocked. And this thing just to put them right out. It was pretty awesome. So
probably can't leave them in that overnight though, right? That's the thing.
Oh no, that's true. Yeah, I mean, here's the deal. They would recommend that you don't, but at some point, like once you're past kid 1 and you're like kind of onto kid 2, like you reach this point of desperation where you're like, you know what? It's like they're gonna be fine, right? It's gonna be okay. Like I know like manufacturer suggested stuff like don't do it, but they also suggest don't co-sleep, and we did that sometimes too. So
yeah,
that's when reality meets suggested. What you should do. So
well, we looked it up. What are the things that you can try, and it's like number 1, dummy. Okay, well that doesn't work, and then we've got these dummies that are like guaranteed to be accepted. I'm like, yeah, she accepts the dummy. It's just how long she keeps it in her mouth before she spits it out. So there was like dummy, then there was singing, swaddling, rocking, and then the last thing was like take them for a drive. I'm like, there is no way in hell that I'm going to get it out of the house, into the capsule, into the car, and go for a drive to like get her to sleep.
That point yet, huh?
Because I'm like,
give it another 3 weeks. You'll be driving around before you know it.
No, my uncle and auntie came to visit a couple of weeks ago, and they're like, oh yeah, both of our kids were sleeping through the night from 5 weeks. I'm like, get the hell out. Just go away.
Yeah, exactly. Leave. You can leave right now.
Not interested.
Oh, not interested. Word. Not interested. Hey, speaking of releases. Speaking of releases.
Go on. Don't make a segue and then marvel in your own brilliance. You just got to power through it.
I'm not going to speak. I there was no good segue there. I was just like, hey, we're going to have to get into this one.
We should.
Yeah. But I can identify, and I am sorry for your trouble. Oh,
yeah, it'll be fine.
I remember those days. Now it's just kids sleeping in my bed. They stay asleep, but they just crawl into my bed somehow in the middle of the night, and I wake up at 3 like, how did you get here? How did you, when did this happen? You just crawled into my bed? But you're like, you're too tired to do anything about it, so they just let them sleep there. It doesn't matter.
Just bolt them in their rooms at night.
Exactly. There we go. That seems like good parenting. I like that idea. Let's do that. The Child Protective Services would definitely not have a problem with bolts on the doors from the outside. They would not have a problem with that.
It's fine. It's fine. They don't need to know.
Oh, my word. Okay, folks. Laravel 8.7 has been released, and it has a new rate-limiting constructor and an on-error HTTP client method, along with the new latest features, fixes, and changes in the 8.x branch. So there is, number 1, add per hour and per day constructors. So Ali Alharti contributed per hour and per day rate limiting for Laravel 8's new rate limiter functionality. So you can call rate limiter through the facade and say for global, and then you can pass in the closure, and then you can say limit per hour, and you can say limit 1,000 per hour or a certain number per day, and that will rate limit whatever your requests are there for to that number on a per hour or per day basis. So that's pretty cool. If you haven't heard of Laravel 8's new rate limiting improvements, you should definitely check those out. They're in the docs, so we'll link or that will be linked up in this blog post. There's also HTTP client on error. So again, HTTP client is new in Laravel 8. So this kind of wraps up Guzzle in a really, really nice, friendly, easy way to be utilized inside your application. And so Tim McDonald, our good Aussie friend, contributed an on-error method to the HTTP client that accepts a callback. So your HTTP client, you can send through with headers. Then you can say, do your post or your get or your whatever. And then you can say just as a fluent method on error, and then pass your function. And the response from that error will get passed to that function, that closure that you have there. And then you can do whatever you'd like to do. So you can do it straight in line. You can now also pass a closure to the throw method, which will call the closure before throwing an exception. So I think the way that you have it right now is when you call that request at the end, you can say, you can look at the response and then you can say, oh man, how does it work? I think you just response throw or something like that, don't you?
I'm
I'm
not
trying to remember
sure.
exactly how that works, but
Yeah.
basically, I think by default, the HTTP client will swallow those exceptions because what would
Yeah.
typically happen with Guzzle is if you get like a 500 error or 404 or whatever, it throws an exception, and then you have to catch it and handle that.
Yeah.
But I think this new HTTP client will swallow those by default, and then you can inspect and say, if it threw an exception, then do something if you'd like to. So
Correct. Yeah.
it looks like now you can do that sort of fluently on error, and then you also have throw, a throw method, which we'll call the closure before throwing exception. Okay. We also have this Artisan serve no reload option. So I think, and I'm trying to remember if this is, no, I'm thinking of PHP Artisan down, which is what PHP Artisan down got a bunch of improvements in 8. But that's not what I was, that's not what got changed here. It's just what I was thinking of.
Yeah, this was introduced in Laravel 8 as well, where PHP Artisan Serve will automatically reload the configuration when it detects changes to the .env file.
That's correct. Yep. Good point.
This no reload flag is if you were to run PHP Artisan Serve --no -reload, it would prevent that automatic reload of the development server when the env file changes.
Gotcha.
So
Awesome.
This is essentially an opt-in to the old behavior from Laravel 7 and before.
There you go. Awesome. So you can see the full list of features and updates in the changelog, the diff between 8.6 and 8.7, or you can just check out the changelog as it's written here in the blog post. And that is the only release that we have. We do have lots of news, though, however. So Michael, talk to us about the Laravel schedule work command.
Yeah, before we get into the command itself, there is an ideas repository on GitHub. So if you go to github.com/laravel/ideas, there is an area there that basically uses the issue tracker to propose new ideas for future changes to the framework. And a few weeks ago, Brian Dillingham threw out the idea to improve how schedule run works locally, which is mainly when you want to test your schedules without having to deal with setting up cron. From the discussion, Ilya Sakovic submitted a pull request to add a brand new schedule work command, and now it's merged into the latest Laravel release. So the new schedule work command mimics an every minute cron tab and calls schedule::run directly every minute. And essentially it's a while loop. So while it's running, while true, if now second is 0, so you just keep spinning every second, call schedule run, and then it'll sleep for a second. So you can just leave this running in the background so you can do any kind of testing you need locally against your scheduled tasks without having to figure out how to run them manually. So it's simple and quite clever the way that it's been set up to essentially keep running, and each minute when the seconds tick over to 0, it'll fire the run event for you, and then when you're done testing whatever you needed to test, you can just hit Control-C and break out of that. So it's a big help for testing all the schedule commands locally. So that's a neat little feature contributed by Ilya and I guess brainchild of Brian there. So thanks to the two of them that contributed and got that one in. That would have been handy months ago when I was working with scheduled tasks a lot.
I'm interested in this case. Like, so you'd actually have to wait for it to hit the actual schedule, right? So you'd have to say, like, if you're running it every 5 minutes, you'd have to wait for the fifth minute of that, right? You'd have to do like
Yes.
11:45, right?
Yes, you would still have to do
Okay,
that. I guess like while you're
interesting.
testing, you could probably just change your commands to run every minute or whatever for those purposes. But yeah,
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying now. I see what
because
you're
you're
saying
wanting to see
because
what
there are
happens
things that
when
happen when you, yeah,
correct
yeah,
when
yeah,
it rolls over. Because running a command or a job directly is not necessarily the same as
the same
running the
thing.
scheduled
You
task. The
got it.
scheduled task, you might want to test the output or the error or the exit codes, or you might want to test the events were fired and that that your hooks into those events are working correctly. So definitely a neat little feature there.
That's a great point. Yeah, absolutely. We also have a new little, let's see, it's an application, I suppose, right? So that David Hemphill is working on, which is called Valet Lite. So it has been dubbed the easiest local development platform for Mac OS. So it touts a GUI for managing local development servers with all the dependencies built in. No more managing your homebrew and multiple PHP versions on your Mac. Praise God. Its main features at launch will include no need for homebrew. Valet Lite will handle the web server in PHP. It serves Laravel and WordPress projects and also soon to come Symfony. It comes with multiple PHP versions already bundled in. It intelligently handles choosing ports for your servers. So if you need to have two sites running at the same time that are going to be communicating between each other, like if you have an API on one side and then you have a client app that's going to be running on the other, it will intelligently choose sequential ports so that they don't collide.
Mhm.
It will serve all your sites by SSL or with SSL by default. It automatically serves your sites at .test domains, and then it also, most importantly, supports dark mode. Got to have that dark mode. So it's not quite available yet, but if you'd like to get the most up-to-date info and a beta invite, you can sign up for the Valet Lite Beta Insiders newsletter, which I believe you can find at davidhemphill.com/Valet Lite Beta or something like that, or Valet Lite newsletter,
Mhm.
Valet-Lite newsletter.
We'll have links in
Or you
the
can
show
just find the
notes.
tweet online somewhere. Yeah, we'll have a link in the show notes. So, the other thing is, if you're interested in hearing a little bit more about David's journey and his reasoning behind creating this, you can find that at the episode we released for North Meets South last week, which was episode 83. You can find that at northmeetsouth.audio/83. About a half-hour show, kind of digging into his motivations behind this and some of the challenges he's faced and some of the solutions he's discovered along the way.
Mhm.
There we go. That's Laravel Valet Lite. We've got this HacktoberCon going on too. I know what Hacktoberfest is.
Mhm.
What's HacktoberCon?
HacktoberCon is a Twitch live stream conference based on the Hacktoberfest with talks and presentations on open source software, Git, pull requests, and more. This was on the 7th of October, so it's been and gone now. But they had presentations from Jason McCreary, JMac, Brian Douglas, and Vince Mitchell, talking about Git, GitHub tips, tricks, and more, and live coding on Hacktoberfest issues. So I assume if you go to the Hacktobercon website, which is just at hacktobercon.com, they will have. I'm sure the videos will be available somewhere. I can't see them. So, there you go. If you go to twitch.tv/Hacktobercon, you should be able to catch the videos there. Yes, the full 4-hour broadcast is available at twitch.tv/Hacktobercon. So we will have links to that for you in the show notes if you would like to check out the videos, the presentations from those three speakers. JMac has spoken fairly regularly at some different Laracons over the years. He's come to Australia. He's presented at a couple of US conferences. Brian Douglas and Vince Mitchell, I don't believe, have spoken on the Laracon stage before, but definitely check out that. There will be links, as I said, in the show notes.
That's really interesting. I wonder if they just kind of threw that together or like
Yeah, I'm
we
not
know.
sure where that came from.
Yeah, it's presented by DigitalOcean, Intel, and .dev. So that's pretty
Hmm.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, way to go. Hey, speaking of videos, we also had this YouTube Jetstream discussion. So one of the brand new features that came with the release of Laravel 8, which we were both extremely excited about, is Laravel Jetstream. So Jetstream provides a starting point for your new projects, which includes your login, your registration, your email verification, two-factor authentication, session management, API support, and team management. All of those things are kind of bundled up into Jetstream. A lot of them can be optional, like you can turn on API support. You can turn on team management. You can turn on two-factor authentication, or you can turn it off. So it's a really quite versatile package. However, some people seem to have issues with the way it was designed and the choices that were made in the tech stack and other questions like that. So instead of continuing to just respond to the vitriol via Twitter, and I say vitriol, it wasn't that bad. I mean, here's what I'll say.
So bad.
From the perspective of a person who spent all the time to make it happen and paid all the people on his team to build it and then released it for free, I could totally see why you'd be upset, right? About people just like hating on something that you released for free just out of the goodness of your own heart, right? So, yeah, Twitter wasn't so bad, but Reddit, I think, is where it really kind of, that's where all the trolls hang out. So,
yeah.
There was basically an impromptu YouTube discussion on Jetstream that Taylor just popped open a live stream and was like, hey, listen, I'm just going to talk about this and some of my motivations behind it and some of the histories of the feature and why it works the way it does and some behind the scenes about Jetstream, which I thought was awesome. I thought it was very cool. It was a great way to respond. So if you didn't get a chance to watch that, I think it's about like 50 minutes.
Yeah, it was about an hour.
Yeah. So it's good. And if you've been curious about any of the discussion around that or kind of what's going on, it's a good watch. So we'll link that up in the show notes. You can check that out, and it's worth your time for sure.
Definitely. The next Laravel Worldwide Meetup is tomorrow, or rather was tomorrow, and I suppose it's the previous Laravel Worldwide Meetup.
Yeah, it was. Yes.
We had two presentations there. One was from Adel Fui. That's a good one. Faiz Rachmanov. Sorry, Adele. Exploring the magic of PHP Storm. And the other presentation was from Yaz Jalad, I'd like to speak to your manager, which was delving into the manager pattern that is quite prominent through the Laravel framework. So if either of those things, I think that both of those presentations were quite interesting. I didn't catch all of the PHP Storm one for potentially obvious reasons.
Yep.
I did. I have watched Yaz's presentation.
Was he actually like on camera?
He was on camera presenting. Yeah, no, he was physically there. Yeah, it was good.
Wow.
He was a bit nervous about presenting, but he did a great job. So I want to go back over it and review the material. He's shy, but he knows.
He doesn't give himself enough credit. Dude's really, really smart and super crazy nice guy.
Yeah.
We got a chance to hang out with him. Well, I guess, got a chance to hang out with him in New York this last year. That was really, really fun. I've never been able to spend that much time with Yaz ever. I don't know. It's just weird. Like, I feel like we never got a chance to hang out. And so this last year was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, check those out. Those are great. And moving along, Laravel Surveillance. So we're going to head into the packages section here. So Paul Redmond is back at it, man. His hand must be all healed up from that fight with the pool cleaner.
Yeah.
And he's back at it. So Paul Redmond wrote this one up. Laravel Surveillance is a package by Neil Kanth Koshik.
Can't help you today. It's not a good day for pronunciations.
Right. So Laravel Surveillance is out there to put malicious users, IP addresses, and anonymous browser fingerprints under surveillance. Once a user is under supervision, the package will log the URLs that they visit and even block users that are deemed malicious. So it consists of a CLI to manage surveillance and a PHP API to survey users programmatically. So there's a few CLI examples in the write-up of what the package can do. So you could say PHP Artisan Surveillance Enable, and you could say IP and then fingerprint an IP, or you could do it by a user ID. I think you could do it by like a session ID or something like that as well. And then you can block them as well by those three things too: IP, user ID, or it looks like I said it was a session ID. It says
fingerprint.
Browser fingerprint. Yeah, exactly. So I know we've talked about other items on the show before where we've said you can just have it's like a firewall. I think it's called Laravel Firewall, right? Where you basically can do this. You could block people out of your application. Yeah. But this is interesting because it will essentially monitor them, right? So you could say this user looks like they might be doing something suspicious. Let's watch them for a little bit. And it'll kind of log for you everything that they're doing, so you can determine if you think it's appropriate to
Yeah.
block them or not. This would actually be really useful if I knew that, like, because we have penetration testers that will kind of try and, you know, mess with our applications
Hmm.
a couple times a year. It'd be cool if I like knew like, hey, they're going to be doing it this day. If I was just like, oh, I'm going to fingerprint them and then watch all the stuff that they do. That'd be
Yeah.
kind of interesting just to kind of see what sort of surface area they're attacking.
Hmm.
So there you go. Laravel Surveillance looks pretty neat.
Yeah. Next up, we have the ability to assign expiration dates to Eloquent models. So the Laravel model expires is a package by Mark Vandenbroek that assigns expiration dates to models and gives you some convenience methods for working with them. The package provides a convenient expirable trait to make models expirable in a snap. You also need to add an expires at field to your model to your model's database table, and you can do that using the packages helper. So there's a table arrow expire or an expires method that you can use in your table. The expires at column is cast to a Carbon instance by default, and you can also customize the name of the column if you need to for the model. There's more information in the documentation for full details on configuration and so on and so forth, but you can determine if a model has expired. For example, in the context of a subscription, you can see has the subscription expired. You can determine if the subscription will expire in the future. And there's also some convenience query scopes for finding only expired models and finding models that are expiring in the future. If that's something that is of interest to you, if you want to track expiration of subscriptions or you want to track, we do it in a number of our database tables where we track active periods. So we might have a plan that is available for certain periods of time, things like that. You can definitely do that. Check it out. We will have links in the show notes.
You know what I hate? I hate when I have to kind of create these scheduled jobs that run however often, maybe every day or something like that. And it's like checks for all these expired things and then performs some action once they expire.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I feel like I have to do that on a semi-regular basis where it's like I just have to constantly check this one column and see if it's past due. And if it is past that date, then I have to execute
Mm-hmm.
some item. I've thought it would actually be cool if like if as another option when you were creating that thing and you knew when it was going to expire, if you just queued a job to run at the date that it would expire, then you would
Mm.
never have to check it. It would just
There,
run.
yeah, there are pros and cons to that approach. If your queue is ever purged, for example, before
Ah,
that job
yes, that would
runs,
be not good.
the
That's true. That's a great point.
Caleb and Daniel on there, I think still when it was, I think either when it was still 20% time or maybe it was no plans to merge, they did talk about the way that Laravel handles purging sessions. And there's like a lottery system in there that like every X requests, it will evaluate to true, for example, this check, and then it will just go and delete all of the old sessions. So you could put something like that in your application that checks for, on a page load, you could do it as a middleware, just like put it some lottery value in there. So rand 110. And then if that evaluates to, 3, then go and do your cleanup. So you don't have to write a scheduled task for it. You could just do that, which is a novel approach to doing that. I think I've seen somewhere in one of the Sparsy packages or in some Sparsy application, they do a similar thing where they will
That's interesting.
just on every
Yeah, so
request.
just
And
like
that way, like it'll bounce around and then some user will hit your web. Obviously you need to have some confidence that your application is going to have a hit to that. If no one's going to use your application for days at a time, then it's probably less valuable than a scheduled task. But you're just putting something in there that randomly on a user will, when they load a page, it'll just go, oh, yeah, we should go and clean up this table.
yeah, that's funny. I think I have done that before actually. I
Mm,
think probably before I knew what queued jobs were or before I knew was able to do like recurring jobs. Probably
yeah.
back in the day that was like oh wait, we could do it this way. Just penalize every so many users or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That's funny.
And like it could just be
Yeah,
that you
okay.
defer that job to the queue, right? So it doesn't affect that user directly. You don't,
Oh, no, that's a good point.
if you're
No,
deleting,
totally, you're right.
thousands of models, right? Then you don't want the request to hang while that delete is happening to a user, but you could just when that lottery
Kick off the
value,
job.
yeah, just throw the job on the queue. So that would
That's
be
a great
another
idea. I
approach.
like that. Yeah, no, that's a great way to do it. Okay, we also have another package that allows you to create test files with Artisan make commands automatically. So the Laravel make testable package creates a test along with any class created using PHP Artisan make commands. So if you said PHP Artisan make controller or make model or make whatever, after installing this package as a development dependency, you would just add dash dash test to the end of one of those, and it would then create your test for you. So, for example, before you would maybe say PHP Artisan make model blog, and then the next thing you'd run is PHP Artisan make test models/blog test, and then dash dash unit. Right, I want to make a unit test for that blog model that I just made. Instead, now what you would do is you'd say PHP Artisan make model blog dash dash test, and it would go ahead and generate that test for you. So it supports making tests for commands, controllers, events, jobs, listeners, middlewares, models, and notifications. So you can go find out more about this or get full installation instructions by checking out the show notes. That seems like a great idea.
Yeah.
Why would you not do that?
I mean,
I like that.
if you're gonna make a test for every single, like every time you make a command and you're gonna make a test, but I don't know necessarily that I would have. I suppose you could have a test for a notification specifically and things like, well, I don't know the notification I would have a test for, but certainly controllers, commands, jobs, middleware. I wouldn't test the model directly necessarily, not until I needed to drop down to unit testing a model, but definitely handy rather than having to run two commands. You know, it's all about that
Yeah,
developer
I like
economics.
that. You got it. You got it.
Next up, we have a package from Arjon Jason Castro, which is a package for eager loading pivot relations. So it belongs to many relations, which can help to avoid n+1 queries on the pivot model. Once your model has added the eager load pivot trait, you can eager load them by just saying plan. For example, plan with items.pivot.unit. And it will load your pivot relations for you automatically. I think it's loading the relation and I suppose the values on that pivot. Yeah, so this is the with pivot stuff. So if that's something that you've tried to do in Laravel and it hasn't worked, definitely check that out. That may be of interest to you.
All right, we've also got kind of moving along from packages and down to tutorials. We have a tutorial to use Laravel Sanctum to authenticate a mobile app. So if you have not, let's think here. I'm trying to think because we've got a couple different items, right? We've got Jetstream, we've got Sanctum, and is the other one Fortify? Is that what it's called?
Correct.
Laravel Fortify. Yeah. Okay. So Jetstream has behind it a Fortify, but Sanctum is Laravel's lightweight API authentication package. So if you're just wanting to authenticate an API, you would use Sanctum. So Alex Pestel is the guy who wrote this one. And in the last article, we looked at authenticating a React SPA with a Laravel API via Sanctum. But this particular tutorial goes over using Laravel Sanctum to authenticate a mobile application. So the application that's being built in this particular case is using Flutter, which is Google's cross-platform app development toolkit. There's a couple implementation details around starting the mobile app that's kind of skipped just because it's not the focus of the tutorial. But he provides some links to the final code at the end of the article. But it's just a good kind of overview of how you would use Sanctum with your Laravel app to hook up a mobile app to do your API authentication. And this is actually relevant to me. I've been helping that nonprofit I work for, Spread Truth, update one of their Ionic apps to Ionic 5. And we had sort of, this was before Sanctum was out ever. And so there was some home rolled sort of weird API stuff. And it's like, it was totally that security by obscurity, right? It was just all sorts of crazy crap. It was like, we'll put a secret in the app that the mobile app will know about, but you would have to decompile it to figure out what that secret is. There's just like weird stuff, right? I wasn't responsible for that one, but that's what it was. And this is kind of a much better way to do that. So there you go. All right, hey man, like this is a little bit crazy, but we are done. I mean, we're at like 30 minutes almost exactly.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's everything. And I have to say, welcome back, Paul. I mean, because literally the last last four and maybe five. No, that was Eric. At least 4 of the articles were from our good friend Paul. So Paul, welcome back. Glad your hand's feeling better. and continue rocking it and writing these blog posts.
Mm-hmm. Makes our job
Also,
easier.
hey, it does. And Michael, hey, congratulations. This is our 100th episode.
It is our 100th episode. We've been at this
Now,
for
this is like
a while.
episode, yeah, episode 129. But for us, this is episode 100 that we've recorded together. So that's pretty awesome.
We took over. I noticed the other day when I opened up to export the previous episode, that the first episode that I had saved in there was number 29. So we've been doing this for 100 episodes now, which is exciting. Time flies. When was that episode? Was this like 2017? Let me check here.
I guess it's been at least 2. All right, it's been 2 years because we do it every other week, right? So, yeah, 2 years, probably a little bit more because there's episodes we skip every now and then, not too often, but every once in a while we miss an episode. So yeah, 100 episodes for us. Woo-hoo.
17th of January 2017. 3 years we've been at this.
3? Holy crap! Jeez, that's insane. That's hard to believe. That's hard to believe. We've missed a whole year of episodes then, or something, right? Because then we'd have. Is that right? Yeah. No.
26 a year, 52 weeks in a year.
Sorry,
every 2
you're
weeks.
correct. Sorry, you're right. You got it. Sorry.
And we're coming up on doing 4 years, so this is 3 years and 10 months, 9 months.
Yeah.
So we're coming up on 4 years doing this show, which is good.
Dude,
that
that's
we've been
wild.
able to keep at it. It's crazy how time flies.
I know. It is. It really is. Yeah. So, hey, everybody, thanks for sticking with us through 100 episodes. We appreciate it. This was episode 129. If you'd like to find show notes for this episode, you can find them at podcast.laravel-news.com/129. Of course, we would love it if you would rate this show up in your podcatcher of choice. 5 stars would be appreciated. Or give us a retweet on Twitter when you see the show come out at late night, your local time, very likely, when we stream it or when we share it the next day on Twitter. And of course, if you have any questions, we'd love to hear from you at Michael Dorinda, at Jacob Bennett, or at Laravel News. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you in a couple weeks. And hopefully Michael will have a little bit more sleep at that point. Good luck, Michael.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, buddy. Take it easy.